Hi, and welcome to this training video on social media. We're going to be looking at Facebook and Instagram insights. My name is Sarah Orchard and I'm your trainer today. I'm the creator of getfullybooked.com and I also run a holiday accommodation business myself. So why use insights? Obviously, if you're spending a lot of time on social media, whether you're doing sort of Facebook or Instagram, that's the main ones I'm going to look at today, but all of the social platforms, whether it's Twitter or Pinterest, they all give you analytics and show you sort of insights as to how your activity is performing. So if you're spending, as we probably know, we all spend quite a lot of time on social media, we need to understand what's working. And particularly if we're posting content, we need to know, does some content perform better than others? Perhaps we put a post out and we suddenly got a big spike in our bookings or inquiries, versus we might have been putting some posts out and we've got nothing. So insights are really, really helpful to help you understand what social marketing activity you're doing and what's working best. What it helps us to do is refine what we're doing, because marketing is ultimately not a science, it's a social science. So you will put activity in place and you need to understand what's worked, what hasn't worked, and maybe make adjustments to what you're posting and your content, and then see whether that makes a difference. But insights give you some tools that can actually help you to understand that quicker. And make some changes to your marketing activity so that it's more effective. So first of all, I wanted to start with some insights terminology, because when you go onto any of the platforms, whether it's Facebook or Instagram, you will see some expressions used and you may not be familiar with them. So I just thought I'd quickly chat those through before we actually go and look at insights with a live demo. So the main terminology that you'll see are these four expressions. So one is reach, then we've got impressions, engagement, and click-through rates, or CTRs. So these, particularly that CTR gets used for email marketing as well. So it's quite useful to know across your marketing activity. So let's start with reach. So reach is the total number of individuals that your social post or advert has actually physically reached. So this is individuals, whereas impressions is the number of times that it's been seen in total. So for example, to give an analogy, 5,000 people may be your reach, so you've reached 5,000 people, but your impressions might be 7,500. And that's because some people may have seen your message more than once. So they may have seen your post or your advert more than once. So that's why sometimes you get a difference between reach and impressions when you're looking at either your advertising performance or when you're looking at your posts on social media. Now, the next term is engagement, and engagement is a marketing term that we like to use, but it just basically means interaction. So if we think about why we're doing our marketing activity, is reach is about awareness. So it's about getting in front of people, and that's always the first step. But secondly, we then want to get the interest and the desire of the people that we're reaching, and we want them to take some action. So engagement is that measure of how responsive they are to the content that you're putting out there. So how interested are they? Was it like a ship that sailed in the night and they didn't pay any attention at all? Or were they all commenting and liking and sharing and actually engaged with your content? So engagement is actually a really important term and performance measure to sort of look at. But also the way that most of the social platforms work, and particularly Facebook and Instagram, is your reach will be affected by your engagement level. So if you are posting poor quality content that people do not engage with, so it's not connecting with your target audience, with your ideal guests, visitors, customers, and they're not interacting with it, ultimately you will reach less people. So the way that the algorithms work within particularly Facebook and Instagram is you get rewarded for higher levels of engagement. And that means that more of your posts will be seen, so you'll get higher reach and impression figures. And also you're more likely to be seen more frequently. So you'll appear in people's news feeds because it's deemed that if they're engaging with your content, they're interested in it, and therefore their platforms will show that content to the user. So engagement is a really important indicator to look at. The last one is the click-through rate, and as that suggests, that's the number of people who've actually, sometimes it's referred to as clicks or click-through rate. It's the number of people who've actually clicked. If there was a link in your advert or there was a link in your post, it's like, have they actually clicked on the link? And the same with email campaigns. Have they actually clicked on the link and gone through to the destination, which is probably going to be your website? So that's just helpful to understand the differences between between all the different expressions that get used when you're looking at insights. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to hop on over with the power of technology to Facebook. And we're going to hop on to my business page, which is the Hudnall's Hideout, which is a treehouse that we operate. And this is our Facebook business page. So this is what you would see if you log into your personal Facebook and then you click on your pages. You may manage multiple pages, but you go to your page and then you have a series of options down the left-hand side here. So you've got your newsfeed, you've got messages, which is your inbox, you've got Business Suite, which I'm doing a training video on as well about scheduling. But you've got this button here, which is called Insights. So you click on Insights and then that fires up. It's always a bit slower when I'm screen sharing, so bear with me. Let's talk amongst ourselves while it loads. There we go. So this, I don't know if you've been to the Insights tab on your Facebook page. This may be a complete mystery to you, but this is what you'll see. So there's an overview page, which is quite useful for a number of things. One is it gives you at a glance how your page is doing. So you'll have the total number of actions on the page, how many likes it's grown by, your post engagement figure. So you can see here with our figure here, so it's up 294%. So you obviously you'd like to see the figures in green rather than figures in red, because that suggests that things are doing well. Let me just go back up to the top. You can also change the date range. So this was the last 7 days. You can look at the last 28 days, which gives you probably a better feel for how things are going on your page. So you can see here we've reached 6,000 people in the last 30 days. And actually the engagement rate, as I was talking about, is roughly a third. So that's actually really high, because engagement rates are normally between 2 and 10%. So to have a 30% engagement rate is really high. So the content is connecting and the people are interested in what we're posting, which is obviously good. The other thing you can do, if you can look back at 90 days worth of data. If you click on this export button, you get the choice to put in a date range. So you can obviously put in the last quarter. I don't think you can go much further back than that, but you can actually, I think, change it to longer than the last 3 months. But then basically you download it. So you can get all of this data as a download into a CSV file format or an Excel spreadsheet. So you can analyze it to your heart's content if you feel so inclined. But that's just useful to understand that sort of high level report that you've got. And then if you scroll down the overview page, you maybe haven't been this far on Insights, you get your last 5 posts. You can actually click see all posts, and there's also a posts page over here, which we will go to shortly and have a look at. And that's really, really helpful. And I'll talk you through what you should be looking for in that. But it shows you at a glance how well your posts have done. Now, what I really want to show you is this little hidden bit at the bottom of the page. Now, most people don't know this exists. And if they've seen it, they might not know what to do with it. So I think this is one of the most valuable things that you will find in Facebook. So take note, go to pages to watch. You'll see your own business is there. What you can do is you can put in competitors. So if you have businesses that you follow, so for example, our treehouse is glamping. So I've got Canopy and Stars because although they don't run just a single treehouse, they are really, really good at their marketing. And so are Cool Stays. I actually list our business with Cool Stays. But they're really, really good. They put a lot of content out there. They've got a marketing team, so they've got a lot of resources to create content with. But what this allows you to do is it allows you to watch up to about 5 other pages and see how well their posts are doing, and see how often they post, what their engagement levels are like. And what is a really cool feature is if I click on this Cool Stays one, what it shows me is their top posts. So when you're trying to think about the content that you put on social media, and maybe you're struggling to know what to actually post, this tool is amazing because it allows you to look back at their best performing posts. So you can learn from your competitors, and it might not even be competitors. You might decide you want to put brands in there like I've done here that, you know, they are competitors, but not really. But I admire what they do from a marketing point of view, and they have good ideas because look at their levels of engagement, like particularly for Canopy and Stars. So I can click on them and I can see what they've been posting. I can see the sorts of content and the pictures and you know, which ones people have commented. See what I meant about commenting and sharing. The ones that get the most interactions, they're 220 likes. So, you know, that has a massive impact in terms of how visible those posts are, but you can sort of see the content that they're posting and what's performing best. So you could decide to put in some brands that you admire, that maybe are lifestyle brands, and maybe they're not just tourism and hospitality, but it doesn't have to be your direct competitors, but you can pick anyone. So I've got another treehouse business here, so I can actually look at what they're posting. And I could go to their page, but actually this tells me, you know, what posts they put out and what's got the best levels of engagement. So, for example, here, they've had 118, or we've had 248. So you can also benchmark yourself against how your competitors are doing, which I think is quite useful to see how well you're doing and how frequently they're posting. So that's right at the bottom of the overview page. And that's really, really, really useful. So the next thing I want to show you in Insights is, I'm going to scroll down. There is, and it's hidden. You have to look for it. It's called People. So again, if you're doing any Facebook or Instagram advertising, this can actually show you the profile. So if you've got a following on Facebook or Instagram, but particularly obviously for this on Facebook, for your Facebook page, this will show you the profile of the people that are liking and following your page. So if you're then doing any adverts, you maybe have a feel for this because you'll know the profile of the guests that are coming or visitors that are coming to your business. But this gives you the data based on who's following you on social media on Facebook. So for us, it's 82% are women, and the biggest age range is 35 to 44. So if I was going to do an advertising campaign, say I had £20 to spend on an advert, I wouldn't target all men and all women. I would do it just to women. And I may decide to just do it to this 2 biggest chunks of age profile from 35 to 54, or maybe just 35 to 44. I also now know where they live as well. So it tells me the major, so we've got like London, Bristol, obviously mainly United Kingdom. I might not want to target people in the States, but you can exclude countries as well when you do any sort of targeting. So that's really helpful to understand the profile of who is currently following your actual page. And another one that's really, really useful is we're going to go up to posts. And again, this can really help you with a scheduling of your posts and thinking about the content. So the first thing is days of the week and times of day, because one of the most frequent questions I get asked is, when should I post on social media? And the answer always is when your audience is, but it does depend. So one thing to bear in mind when you look in Facebook, Facebook is American, they're based in California. So the time zone that's the default up here is Pacific time zone. So this chart here where it says that people are not online between like 4 o'clock in the afternoon and 9 o'clock in the evening is actually wrong, because you've got to put on the time difference. So you'll see that this bit here, where it's at its peak from sort of lunchtime, that's actually evening for us. So I find generally for all hospitality and tourism type businesses, I've not seen any difference to this. The busiest time is between 6:30 or 6 o'clock in the evening and 10 o'clock in the evening. And the prime time is between sort of 7 and 9:30. So when you're doing your posts, it obviously makes sense to post them when most people are online. You can post them at another time, but if you choose to post them at 11 o'clock in the afternoon, don't be surprised if you don't get to so many people, because they may be working, they may be having a sneaky look on their lunch break possibly. But some platforms, for example, like LinkedIn, which isn't so relevant for us, but that often has a peak between sort of 7 and 8 o'clock in the morning, and sometimes actually between sort of 5 and 6:30 in the evening, because people are just sort of clocking off from work and they have a quick look, or maybe on their lunch break as well. So again, it will vary by platform, social platform, and it will vary depending on who you're targeting. But generally speaking, you should be posting in the evenings. And I don't normally see much of a difference here. You've got days of the week. We tend to find that we get a lot of bookings on a Monday, and I think it's because people have spent either late on a Sunday or Monday, because people have spent the weekend making plans and looking at options, and then they decide to commit, and maybe they check with their employer as well on a Monday. It's the first time they can check whether they can take the holiday, and then they book. So we do tend to get slightly more web traffic over the weekends, and then we get more bookings on a Monday. So again, that will influence when you post. So it's good to understand the profile of your particular audience. And it may not look like this, it may look different. But in my experience of working with hundreds of tourism and hospitality businesses, it doesn't tend to. But there's always an exception, and it's always worth looking at. The next section I love, and it's your posts. So here you have all of your posts that you've published, and you can scroll down and you can click see more, and you can see all of them. I tend to each week look back at how the posts have done. So what I'm looking for, remember those expressions terminology that I talked you through. So you've got the date you published it, the post, the reach, and then the engagement level. And engagement gets split down into the number of post clicks. So they actually clicked on the post and wanted to read more and explore it more. Maybe they were looking at the photographs, if it's multiple photographs. And then you've got the pink column is reactions, comments, and shares. Now, the pink column is what influences the actual reach. So you'll see here, we had a post that went out on the 3rd of March. Now we have about 1,200, 1,300 people following our page, but we got to 4,500 people, of which 541 clicked on the post and 309 either commented or shared. Now that's why that's a big yellow bar, and we didn't pay for that. That was free. So obviously there's another one here at 1.9, got one here at 1.1. So again, you know, that's almost going to the equivalent of every single person that's following our page. And on average, as I said, you see normally the reach will be between 2 and 10%. So I should only be going really to about 100 people every time I post, or 120 people. And you can see that most of these posts are outperforming that literally every time, which is good because this is my job. But you know, ultimately, you want to look at the ones that have performed best. You want to look at the ones that, you know, you think, oh, what did I put in that post? What sort of comments did I get? So this had 84 comments, reactions. So that's the likes, smiles, crying, you know, angry, little icons that we can click on, or shares. So I need to look at that post and work out, why did that post do better than other posts? It obviously connected with people. It got me a bigger reach, because the more quality content that you put on Facebook and Instagram, but particularly on Facebook, the algorithm rewards you. So the more that you don't put outbound links and you're always sending them off of the site, the more that you get comments and shares and interactions, the bigger your reach, and you won't have to pay for that. And it improves over time. So if you constantly are posting really good quality, ultimately you will be rewarded. So it's important to make sure that you look at your content and you look at what is performing best. And I find this to be one of the most useful pages on basically on Facebook that we can use. So I'm now going to do, there are a few other tabs that you can look at on Insights, but I'm conscious that, you know, it can be a bit overwhelming with all of this. It's a bit like Google Analytics, because you've got, there's also a likes page as well, and you can sit and analyze all this stuff till you're sort of blue in the face. So what I wanted you to do, or what I wanted to do for you, was to just show you what I think are the most useful insights and elements of this for you to look at as a business owner. This is quite useful to look at your page likes over time. And it just shows you how much your page likes have grown. So I think the most useful tabs is the overview tab with that pages to watch. Obviously looking at the people one, so that you understand the profile of your actual followers and the people, your fans on Facebook, and also the posts one, and looking at how your content's performed and how you improve your content and get better at what you're posting, so that you get a bigger organic, which is obviously free, reach, and get better engagement from your audience. Now, I'm going to, again, with the power of technology, don't we just love Zoom? How we've lived without it, I don't know. But I'm going to attempt, and I'm hoping this is going to work, I'm going to attempt to connect my phone to the screen, because I want to show you how to use Insights on Instagram, which obviously is on my phone. So bear with me while I just get this set up. I could have given you some static screen grabs, but I do think it's really useful. There we go. To actually see this for real. So hopefully that's what we're seeing. Yes, hopefully that's what you've got on the screen. I don't know if I can get rid of this in the background. She says, having now just lost it. Let me try that again. I have done this before. I think it's just disappeared. There we go. Right. So this is my my phone, and I am on my Instagram account. And I don't know if you've found Insights on your Instagram on your phone, but I'll show you how you go about doing this. So bear with me. I love doing live tech. It's always bound to go wrong. So what you do is you click on those 3 horizontal lines in the top right-hand corner. And this is how you find Insights. So you click on Insights, which is the 3rd one down. And again, what I find with Insights on Instagram is you don't get quite as much as you do on Facebook. It's not quite as detailed and doesn't give you some of the functionality, like you can't watch accounts like you do the pages to watch on Facebook, but a lot of the key indicators you still get. So again, you can click on the number of days. One thing to note on Instagram, you can only look at 7 days or 30 days, which is really quite restrictive. And what I find is I tend to make a note of the numbers every month, because otherwise you don't really have a track of how things have been going, because you can't go back and download the data like you can with Facebook. So it's a little bit frustrating. So I'm going to look at the last 30 days. And again, it gives you an overview. So it tells you how many accounts you've reached. So this is how many Instagram accounts you've reached. How much interaction you've had on your content. So obviously we're looking at a positive, we want to look for a positive figure. I've got a negative figure here. So I had been quite active this will be in sort of February. I did a bit more activity. So actually I had more interaction. So I could look at that and think, well, my content in March wasn't so good. I didn't get as much interaction. It shows you your audience, so it shows you your total followers, but I've had a follower growth of 3.1%, so that's a green, that's good. Then it shows you your posts and stories, so you can see how many. You can see I haven't been as active in the last month. I've only done 7 posts. I normally aim to post every 2 days, so I would normally do on average 15 posts in a month, but I've only done 7, so it's like back of the class for me. So I can now look at those posts and I can see how well they did. So this is this is like the last year. So obviously I can see my best performing post, and this is organic reach. I didn't pay for this, went to 11,000 people on Instagram. So at that point in time, I think we had about 5,000 people following us. So we got to like double our account following. So it just shows how much you can get to people on Instagram, a bit like Facebook, if you put good quality content that people interact with. But let's just look at the last 30 days, because that's what we said we were going to look at. So I can now see which of my posts have done best. So obviously we were very lucky we appeared on a TV show. So obviously the picture of Sandy Toksvig, not surprisingly, got lots of interest. But I could also compare that to the last 3 months and say, okay, where does that sit versus my other posts that I've done in the last 3 months? And yes, it was the top performing one, but there were some others, for example, like the one of the bedroom that got nearly 4,500. So if I'm thinking about, and actually I only posted that one in the last week. So I'd be thinking, okay, what did I post in terms of that content and hashtags that did really well? And it obviously connected with my audience. So can I post more like that? And you sort of start to learn which ones work best. You can also look at your stories. So if you're doing stories, you can look at which ones had the biggest reach and which ones sort of outperform. So again, if you're spending time creating stories, let's look at the last 30 days. I've done slightly more stories than I've done posts. Obviously, I was a bit short for time, so I did lots of sharing of stories. We can see that one of them got 1,295. So again, I'd look at that content, and that was actually someone who was watching the TV show that posted it, and then I shared it. So that was good visibility without much effort from my point of view in terms of sharing that on a story. But it allows you to scroll through, and you can look at reach. You can also look at other factors. So you can look at whether they actually tapped on an email button. Did they follow you? Did link clicks, so did they actually, or did they go to your profile? So we could look at profile visits, and we can see which of the posts actually created the most profile visits, and which ones actually maybe created, when we talked about impressions versus reach. So you've got all of the same parameters. I mean, you could spend hours looking at all of this, and most of us haven't got enough time. But website taps, obviously we're interested to know how many people actually went across to our website. Now from stories, I wouldn't expect it to be quite so high, but maybe I'll go back to my posts. And again, I would also then compare my stories versus my posts to see which ones are actually doing best from a generating traffic point of view. So website taps. So obviously it's taking a little while to load, and see how it changes. It's not necessarily the same post that did well from a reach point of view or an engagement point of view, but certain posts performed better from a getting people onto my website perspective. And that's what I want ultimately. I want them to come onto the website. I want them to book. So this is just a really good way of sort of understanding which of your content has actually worked really well. So you've got, that's your basic overview. Let me just go back into Insights again, because there is also a profile section. So as I said to you, it's much more limited on Instagram Insights. But if you clicked on See All, I get a follower breakdown. So I'm going to, again, look at the last 30 days. I'm going to look at how many follows and unfollows I've had, so I can see what my account growth is. I can also see where people are based. This is quite helpful if you're going to do any adverts. So if you're going to do any Instagram or Facebook ads, as I said, it's good to know where people come from. So I would focus my advertising on London, Bristol and Cardiff, because they're my top And that's the last 30 days. I don't think we can go beyond that, but that's fairly consistent. I see every time I look at my analytics, my insights. So I would definitely want to focus in on targeting those. And I might only just do like a London campaign because that's the lion's share of the people. I can also see the age profile. Now, obviously, Instagram is very much the sort of 30-something, so it doesn't surprise me that 51% of the audience is 25 to 34, and that most of them are women. So again, that's actually very similar to what we saw on just now in Insights on Facebook. So that would help me to understand if I was doing advertising and I wanted to put a little bit of marketing budget on my ads, that's where I would focus my energy. And also here at the end, it just shows you also the most active times by the days of the week and times of the day. And you can see that between 6 and sort of 9 p.m. is the busiest time. And I find generally with Instagram, I tend to post around about 7:30 to 8 o'clock in the evening. And that seems to be the most effective time to post. If you're trying to work out what time to post on Twitter, there's a really good tool called Tweeriad, like Twitter and period, Tweeriad, that allows you to see when your audience is on Twitter. And again, that can be quite different in terms of the insights. So it's useful to look at Twitter differently and just, I mean, it's got insights as well, but you can actually look at what time of day to post using that app as well. So that's the main sections. Like as I said, insights on Instagram are much more basic. It doesn't allow you to go back as far. It doesn't tell me, I think, as much information, but it does give me a flavor for which of my posts have been working hardest for me. And in terms of my goals, in terms of people going to my website or making bookings or checking out our profile, obviously it tells me a bit more about what's been working. So I'm going to stop this screen share now, she says, and hopefully go back to my slides. So I hope you found that interesting, and I hope it's really helped you if you're new to Facebook and Instagram Insights and working out really to use it to help get your content better and for it to help get more traffic to your website. So I hope that's been useful, and don't forget there are other videos in this digital marketing training series, so do go and check those out. Thanks for listening.